guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Madison, and if not, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a video that's probably going to be quite long in the end, but it's something that I think a lot of people want to see and have a lot of questions about, and that is a frequently asked questions, all you need to know video about joining the Disney Vacation Club. So if you haven't watched my introduction video, you won't know this, but my family joined the Disney Vacation Club just back in February when we were at Disney World. We basically went to the pitch just because we wanted some free fast passes, and next thing you know, we own at Disney's Copper Creek Villas. And it's not something we regret, it's something that we definitely think was the right decision for us. However, having gone to Disney and seeing the pitch from the DVC guides, I think there are a lot of things that you can learn outside of Disney. There's a lot of things that the DVC guides don't want to tell you. There's a lot of things that they want to make seem like they're a lot easier than they actually are. And it is, in all honesty, a timeshare system, and timeshares are difficult from time to time. There's a lot of rules, there's a lot of planning that needs to be done, and there's a lot of research that needs to go into what type of property you're buying with the Disney Vacation Club. So I'm hoping that by making this video, I can shed some light on the process, shed some light on things that your DVC guide will tell you and some things that they won't tell you, but that you should take into account before making a purchase, and just generally helping you to get to know how the Disney Vacation Club works. So I've got a list here of 22 points of things I want to talk about, so please do bear with me. I will write down in the description sort of where I'm talking about each thing, so that if you have specific questions you can skip to it, so hopefully that will help you. But if not, watch the whole video, see what I have to say, because there is a lot of information to know about the Disney Vacation Club. Alright, so the first thing to tackle is what properties the Disney Vacation Club includes. And these are a selection of resorts at Walt Disney World Resort, the Grand Californian Villas at Disneyland, Aulani in Hawaii, Hilton Head Island, and Vero Beach. At Disney World, the resorts are the Animal Kingdom Lodge, the Bay Lake Tower at the Contemporary, the Beach Club, the Boardwalk, and at Wilderness Lodge there's two, so Copper Creek and Boulder Ridge, Old Key West, the Polynesian, the new Riviera Resort that's set to open in December of this year, Saratoga Springs, and the villas at the Grand Floridian. So for all intents and purposes, any of those choices can be your home resort, and that's something I'll talk about in a moment, but that consists of 14 properties at the moment. And in the future, there is sort of the assumption that Disney will be building more properties that belong to the Disney Vacation Club. So something to consider when you're buying into the Vacation Club is how often you're visiting at Walt Disney World or any of these properties. You really need to be vacationing every 2 or 3 years at a very minimum to make this purchase worth it. So when you purchase Disney Vacation Club, you purchase an amount of points. These points refresh each year, and they can also be banked from the year before or borrowed from the year ahead. So feasibly, if you wanted to visit the Walt Disney World Resort every 3 years, you could take a mega trip by banking your 2018 points, borrowing your 2020 points, and visiting in 2019 with all of those points combined, and then again, banking your 2020 points, borrowing your 2022 points, and visiting in 2021. So that gives you every 3 years at a very minimum, and you wouldn't need to buy any more points, but that's something I'll talk about later on. But if you're not going every 3 years, then this purchase is probably not worth it for you. Now, as I mentioned with the banking and borrowing, if you're not going every year, this is something to take into account when you're deciding how many points you need. If you feel like you need 200 points for every visit that you want to take, you might only need to have 100 points a year because of the banking and borrowing. And when you're calculating the amount of points you need, you can find a point chart online. Disney releases these quite early, so right now the point charts are for every single room and every single resort in 2019 and 2020. And you can find this to calculate how many points you'll be needing on average for each visit. I will put the link for the point chart below because it is super helpful, and you can look at all of the resorts, all of the different styles of rooms to see what you would need. So let's say that you want to go to the Boardwalk every other year for 7 nights and stay in a 2-bedroom villa. In the middle season, a 2-bedroom would run you 280 points for a standard view or 313 points for a pool/garden view. But since you're going every other year, you'd only need to be purchasing half the amount of points because you can bank and borrow. So you really only need to be buying 150 to 160 points, and that way every other year you'd have 300 to 320 points to spend. However, obviously, if you wanted to do the same trip every single year, you'd have to buy the outright 280 or 320 points to be able to afford that trip. So another thing to consider when deciding whether DVC is right for you is whether you have the ability to plan quite far in advance, because that's something you'll need to do. And the first decision to figure out when deciding on DVC is what home resort you'll want. Now this is important because there are two different booking windows for DVC resorts. The first booking window is at 11 months, and this is for booking your home resort. So owners at specific resorts can book at their home resort at 11 months out. For my family, we can book at Copper Creek 11 months ahead of when we would want to travel. This is really nice because the only people that you're competing with for rooms is people that own at your resort. But then at 7 months, anyone that owns DVC can book at any of the resorts. So people that own at Aulani can start booking at the Boardwalk. People that own at the Grand Californian can book Hilton Head. Anyone can book anywhere. So now you have a lot more competition for available space, and rooms can book up quite quickly. Your DVC guide will tell you that it is really easy to book at the 7-month mark, and this is something that our DVC guide told us and we believed him, but when we started looking on Facebook and other groups, we realized that it was actually quite difficult to book certain resorts at 7 months out. So busier times like new land openings at different parks, marathon weekends, festival weekends at Epcot are almost impossible to get at 7 months out for certain resorts. So right now, for example, the Beach Club in October of 2019 is completely sold out and has been for a long time. It's the Food and Wine Festival, it's the Halloween parties, it's the Wine and Dine Marathon weekend, and Star Wars Land is opening 2 months before that. So if you were wanting to go to the Beach Club in October of this year, it would have been really handy to be able to book at 11 months out. Now, if you cannot book at 7 months out, this is not restricting you from going on a trip. You have the ability to waitlist 2 different resorts or 1 different resort with 2 different room options, basically just 2 different waitlists at any of the resorts you like every single year. So the best thing to do would be to book your home resort at 11 months out, and then come 7 months, see what you can get or have the option to waitlist. But you still know that if something goes wrong and you don't get the wait list, you have a place to fall back on, and that is your home resort, and you'll still be going to Disney for that year. This brings me to a really important point that I see on Facebook a lot. People tend to purchase Aulani, Hilton Head, or Vero Beach because they have a lower price per point, but still intend to visit Walt Disney World every year. And this is why it is so important to buy your home resort correctly and to buy where you want to stay. This is because if you plan on visiting Walt Disney World every single year and your home resort is at Aulani, Hilton Head, or Vero Beach, you have nothing to fall back on if the 7-month window doesn't work out for you. So owners like myself at Copper Creek can book at Copper Creek at 11 months. Let's say I really want to go to the Boardwalk and it doesn't work out. I know I'm still going to Walt Disney World that year. However, if you own at Hilton Head, you have no option to get into the Walt Disney World booking system until 7 months. And so if 7 months comes by and there's nothing available for you, you might not be going to Disney World that year. You might have to be doing a cash booking, something like that. So the cheaper price per point does not actually work out to be helpful if you're going to Walt Disney World. So as I mentioned, deciding a home resort is really important, and it's something to put a lot of research into because you cannot change your home resort. Once you purchase your DVC contract, that's your home resort and you can't change it unless you wanted to sort of sell your contract and buy a new one. So having decided your home resort, the next step is to consult a points chart for your home resort to determine how many points you'll be needing on a yearly basis for the visits that you want. So as I mentioned, my family bought at Copper Creek and we purchased 175 points to give us the sort of flexibility for the vacations that we want to do every year. We usually visit for 5 to 6 nights a year, and we're happy to stay in a studio, but we did want enough points to give us the flexibility that we could stay in 1 bedrooms if that's something we wanted that year. When it's just my sister, my mom, and I, we'll probably be staying in a studio every year to save points. However, since we're older, men and friends will come into our lives and come on trips with us. We did want to have access to enough points for a 1-bedroom to sort of make sure that we had some privacy if that's something we wanted to do one year. So a studio at Copper Creek in the middle season is 120 points, whereas a 1-bedroom is 255. One thing worth noting is that the weekends are considerably more point pricey than the weekdays. So if you tend to only do 6-night, 7-day trips, the best thing to do would be to leave out one of the weekend days, so Friday or Saturday night. If you can check in on Saturday and check out the following Friday, not spending points on that Friday night will save you a lot of points. So if we only did 6 nights, those points that I said before for Copper Creek studios and 1-bedrooms would go down to 100 and 205 points, depending on where we wanted to stay, and that would obviously save us quite a few points. So when you decide your home resort, it is very, very important to do a lot of research online about it. There are many things that your DVC guide won't tell you about your home resort in an effort to get you to purchase the property that they're pushing. So for example, I've discovered that Copper Creek actually has very few studios, and it's significantly easier to get a 1-bedroom every year, but studios book up quickly. This is all right for my family because we have enough points to book a 1-bedroom. So if we wanted to book a 1-bedroom at the 11-month mark and then come the 7-month mark decide, oh, we want to go to a studio at the boardwalk and save some points, that's something we can do. But if you only have enough points for a studio, that might make it really tricky at the 11-month booking window. Another thing worth looking into is how many people a studio at your home resort can sleep. Some studios at some resorts sleep strictly 4 people. Some other resorts like the Polynesian have a Murphy bed that you can pull out of the wall, and that means that you can sleep 5 people. And other resorts advertise that they can fit 5 people, although they only provide space for 4 and then require you to bring your own supplies, like an air mattress or a sleeping bag for the 5th person. This means that if you're a family of 5, you really need to be doing your research because you don't want to buy into Copper Creek and then find out that you have to get a 2-bedroom every year. And if you're a family of 6 or more, you really do need to be preparing to have a 2-bedroom every year. So I've obviously mentioned a couple of different room types, and I just want to break down what the options are for you. All DVC resorts have studio options, and these consist of either a queen bed and a sleeper sofa, or 2 queen beds at Old Key West, for example, in the same room. These studios have a kitchenette, so that would include a mini fridge, a microwave, a coffee maker, and a toaster, as well as access to a patio or a balcony. Most resorts, but not all of them, offer a 1-bedroom option. So these options have a separate bedroom which hosts a king bed, and then in the living space they have a queen-size sleeper sofa, as well as a full kitchen, so this would include oven, stovetop, full fridge, etc. And they also have in-room laundry facilities. Sometimes the living space also hosts a twin sleeper chair, so these rooms will be advertised as having the ability to sleep 5 people. The 1-bedroom resorts at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, at Bay Lake Tower, and at the villas at the Grand Californian also have 2 bathrooms, so that's something to consider if you have a lot of girls in your family that need time to get ready. The Polynesian is one of the resorts that doesn't actually have a 1-bedroom option, so if you're purchasing at the Polynesian, you need to be prepared to stay in a studio or a 2-bedroom. So speaking of a 2-bedroom, every single resort offers a 2-bedroom in some capacity. So these can be dedicated 2-bedroom units, so they were built to be 2 bedrooms and they only function as 2 bedrooms. And you can also have an option which consists of a 1-bedroom unit with a studio lock-off. So the 1-bedroom would have a bedroom and a living space area, and then the studio option connected through a door, and they would each also have their own entry doors. In the same way, all of the 2 bedrooms have a full-size kitchen, they have in-room laundry facilities, and they have access to a patio or a balcony. So some resorts offer grand villas, and these are a form of 3-bedroom, and they can sleep anywhere between 9 and 12 people. They also have full kitchens, they have 4 different bathrooms, and they also would have a full washer-dryer unit in the room. If you are staying in a studio, you also do have access to free laundry, but you need to go to the resort's laundry facilities. And if you speak to someone at the front desk, they will instruct you on how to access these facilities for free. So, regarding home resorts, if you decide you want a home resort that Disney is not currently selling, so right now they are selling the New Riviera and the rest of the points left at Copper Creek. You can decide that you want something that they're not pushing. They won't tell you this option in your DVC sales pitch. They will push the 2 or whatever ones are currently being sold. But if you do your research, you can find out which ones Disney is selling, and they will either help you through the process of purchasing that resort through them or putting you on a wait list for some of the more popular ones that aren't actually currently available. So absolutely do not feel pressured to purchase at the resorts that they are pushing. If you are a family of 5 and your guide is pushing you into buying Copper Creek, that is wrong. You cannot sleep 5 people in a studio at Copper Creek, but they still might try to sell you on a 1-bedroom instead. Your family can fit in studios elsewhere, so do your research and bring it up to your DVC guide and tell him or her that you want a different resort than Copper Creek, for example. I will caution you, some of the other resorts that Disney sells that aren't currently the ones being pushed do vary in price quite a bit. So at the moment, Copper Creek is selling for $188 per point, whereas if you wanted to purchase the Polynesian or the Grand Floridian through Disney directly, you would be paying about $235 or $245 per point. So it is more expensive, but if you know that you want to go to the Polynesian or the Grand Floridian every year on your vacation, it's worth doing because you might not always get into them at the 7-month point. I did mention this before, but another thing you should be considering when deciding how many points you want to purchase for what type of room, you should be considering whether you want access to a full kitchen on all of your stays. So some families like to visit and cook breakfast every day, cook some big meals. A lot of people like to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas and have a big Thanksgiving dinner or a Christmas dinner. And for that, you would need a full-size kitchen, which means at the minimum, you'd be needing to stay in a 1-bedroom. The studios obviously would only have options to make small things like toast, bagels, anything in the microwave, stuff like that, but you wouldn't have a full kitchen or space to eat after cooking a large dinner. So another thing to mention is the length of your contract. Contracts bought new from Disney last for 50 years from purchase, so our contract lasts until 2068. However, contracts bought from the resale market can have earlier expiration dates based on when they were purchased from Disney. So the earliest expiration date at the moment is for some of the earliest Old Key West purchases, and that is 2042. So it is coming up soon. When you buy at resale, the price per point should be significantly lower, so that will save you some money that way, but you should understand that your contract will be expiring in basically 20 years. Whereas if you purchase through Disney, you get a full 50 years of vacations guaranteed. So, speaking of resale, this is something to consider before you purchase through Disney. You absolutely can purchase resale contracts that are being sold from the previous owners on the resale market, and there are loads of these to be found on Facebook and different DVC resale websites. They're often a significantly cheaper price per point, but like I mentioned, the contract length will vary, and they do come with a certain amount of restrictions. So buyers of resale contracts are no longer entitled to any of the perks that DVC owners get when they purchase through Disney, and they are restricted to using the points on their contract at the currently existing 14 resorts. So if Disney builds 10 more resorts over the next 10 years that DVC owners are eligible to trade their points for, you will not be able to do that, and you will have to stay at the 14 that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. For some people, that's not the end of the world because the 14 current resorts seem to be the best resorts. They're not going to get any closer to the Magic Kingdom. They're not going to get any closer to Epcot. As they build more DVC resorts, they will be more removed from the center of everything. But they might be fun, they might have nice theming, they might be something that you want to stay at occasionally, and that's something you won't be able to do. All right, so now I want to talk about the perks that I've been mentioning. DVC guests are entitled to quite a few perks. Now, all of them can be taken away or changed by Disney, so these are not things that are guaranteed in your contract. Your contract guarantees you a certain amount of points per year at a certain resort. But the perks are nice, and Disney is always offering new things and changing things to try and make experiences better for owners. So, guests that purchase directly from Disney and own the Blue Card are entitled to visit the Top of the World Lounge at the Contemporary and the DVC Lounge in Epcot. So if you go to these lounges, you can charge your phone, you can get, at Epcot, you can get free drinks and chips and just kind of hang out, rest your feet, get some air conditioning on a hot day. You're entitled to discounts on dining, merchandise, and experiences and events. So various tours are discounted for DVC members. You have access to the Moonlight Magic events and any other events that Disney decides to put on for DVC members. You are entitled to free parking for the length of your stay at your resort. And this is something that regular hotel guests are not entitled to at the moment. You do have to pay a nightly fee for parking. You'll have the ability to pool hop, which is something your DVC guide will really try and sell you on, and I don't think it's actually that big of a deal because the list is quite restrictive. You cannot pool hop to any pool at all. However, you can pool hop to some like Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, Animal Kingdom Lodge, things like that. But the big ones like the Polynesian and the pool at the beach club are not on that list. You get free laundry, so I have mentioned this, but in the 1 and 2 bedrooms, the laundry facilities will be in your room. And if you're staying in a studio, you have access to free laundry at the resort's laundry facilities. You have the option to purchase an annual pass at the Florida resident rate for the Gold Pass. So if you do not live in Florida, the only annual pass options that you generally have access to are the Platinum and the Platinum Plus Pass, and those are not discounted in any way. But if you're a DVC member, you're also eligible to buy a discounted Gold Pass. So that will be a year-long pass that's blocked off for 2 weeks at Christmas and 2 weeks at Easter. You get discounts on hard-ticketed events like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. These are not all of the events, so the closer you get to Halloween or to Christmas themselves, you probably won't have discounts, but the earlier parties, like the ones in September for Halloween and the ones in November for the Christmas parties, you will get discounts on. And you can book a highly popular annual membership cruise. So the point value for this cruise is actually quite expensive, but the people that do it love it. This year's cruise is going to Alaska, and there's also one off the coast of California. I don't remember where it's going, but there are 2, and they are quite popular, so it's something that you do have access to. All right, so the cancellation policy for DVC resorts. You can make cancellations freely up to 31 days before your visit. However, all points that you banked or borrowed for the trip will remain in that specific use year. So if you're going on a big trip and you borrowed points from the year ahead into this year to book your trip and then you cancel, you will have to use those points by the end of the year. If you don't, you'll lose them entirely. If you cancel a trip between 30 and 1 day before your trip, your points go into something that's called holding. This means that you can use your points within 60 days of your originally planned trip. But this is obviously something that's quite tricky. If resorts are booking up at 7 months, you will have to be really flexible and perhaps do a split stay or something like that where you're staying at different resorts for 1 night. But if you don't lose those points after 60 days, they'll be lost entirely. And finally, if you cancel your reservation on the day of your check-in or you don't show up, you lose the points entirely. You can't get them back. There's nothing that can be done. So another common question is whether you can use your points outside of the 14 DVC resorts. And the answer to this is yes. So with your points, rooms can be booked at any of the other Walt Disney World or Disneyland hotels, although the point value isn't really good and it might be better to purchase cash rooms at that rate. If you did want to go stay at the Art of Animation or Port Orleans or something like that, you could use your points towards staying there. You can also use your points to go to 4 different Disneyland Paris hotels, 3 different Hong Kong hotels, and 4 different hotels at Tokyo Disney. And you can use your points for Adventures by Disney and Disney Cruises. So a lot of people online actually say that the point value isn't very good for these things, and it's actually better to sell your points, rent your points for that year, and then use the cash that you earn to pay for the cruise or the Adventure by Disney. But it is an option. If you have enough points and you don't want to go through the hassle of selling them, you can use them to go on these trips. And finally, you have the opportunity to trade through RCI, which is a timeshare trade group. So you can stay at non-Disney resorts at over 3,000 locations. So these include California, Italy, Brazil, Greece, the Philippines. There are tons and tons on the website. If you go onto the Disney Vacation Club website and look at Find Destinations, the list is absolutely huge, and you can use your points to go stay at any of those resorts. Those resorts actually do have really great point values. When I was looking them up for the purpose of making this video, there were some resorts that you could stay at for 80 points for a full week. They might not be as nice with as great of service as Disney, but they are still high quality resorts in different locations, so it gives you an opportunity to see the world. So I know that was a lot of information, and if you've watched this whole video, thank you so much for sticking with me. I do hope that I was able to answer some of your questions, some of your inquiries about joining the Disney Vacation Club. Like I said, there is a lot of research to be done before joining, and it shouldn't be a quick decision. We spent some time on it. We went to the original meeting, and 72 hours later we did purchase, but in the meantime we were doing a lot of research online, seeing what people had to say, and it's absolutely worth doing because it doesn't hurt. Go on the Facebook groups, ask people what they like, what they don't like about their home resort, find out how many points you need for your family. Do research apart from meeting with the DVC guide, because they will tell you one set of things which are largely true, but they do kind of hide some things. They are salespeople and they're trying to get you to purchase what they want you to purchase and not always what's necessarily best for you and your family. So do your research. If you take anything out of this video, do your research. I will put loads of links in the description below to sort of help you into this process of doing research. And if you have any questions at all, please do put them down in the comments and I'll try and answer them as thoroughly as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. I do have some more exciting videos coming up. I'm going to Disneyland Paris next month, so I will be vlogging that and a couple of things surrounding that. So there's lots of exciting stuff to come. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day and I'll see you real soon.